voters across the country heading to the polls in what will amount to the first referendum on Donald Trump's second term.
I got a really simple idea. How about we elect the Jersey guy?
Your job is to vote tomorrow. Your job is to vote tomorrow.
The energy in New York, New Jersey, Virginia, and beyond getting higher. President Trump is not on the ballot, but his agenda most definitely is. A new CNN poll finds most Americans are not happy with how things are going with Trump back in the White House. The president's approval rating now at its lowest point of his second term. It sits at just 37%. A full 63% of Americans say they're unhappy with the job that he's doing. Those are numbers that we last saw after January 6th, 2021. And on a number of key issues, from the economy to his handling of the government shutdown, the president finds himself underwater with the American people. So the question, will we see that disappointment reflected at the ballot box tomorrow? Democrats are certainly counting on it. 1 year almost to the day since their crushing defeat last November. They're hoping the big wins tomorrow can help them finally take the fight to President Trump.
I think the real problem here isn't who's talking about Trump. The real problem here is who is not taking on Trump and who is not committing to serve the people of New Jersey.
The answer is that we stand up against the chaos and the division that we see coming out of this administration.
They did not expect California. They did not expect all of you. They thought we were going to write an op-ed, have a candlelight visual, maybe do a rally. They poked the bear, and the bear is poking back, and we're going to get out there and win.
All right, let's get off the sidelines, head into the arena. My panel's here. CNN legal analyst Elliot Williams, Republican strategist and pollster Kristen Soltis Anderson, CNN chief political analyst, former Obama senior advisor David Axelrod, and former Trump campaign advisor David Urban. It's a great team for this day before Election Day. And if it's not enough, on the left side of the screen is the text chain with additional analysis. This today coming from our reporters doing the hard work on the campaign trail. They're going to tell you what they're seeing out there. David Urban, you were laughing there as we were listening to Gavin Newsom at the end. He says they poked the bear. Is what's on the ballot in California the biggest race tomorrow night?
I don't know. I mean, listen, I think it will be a major accomplishment if Newsom gets the California voters to reverse their previous position on this topic. But I do think for him it's a very important race. A very important referendum, not a race. It'll elevate him and give him a lot of credibility and provide a lot of energy behind Gavin Newsom. But I think the most important race clearly is going to be the New York mayor race. It's going to have huge, tone. It's going to have overtones, and it's going to, you're going to have my good friend David Axelrod is going to sit here and agree or disagree. But you have.
I think I'm going to do one or the other.
So you have Spanberger. You have this kind of like blue dog Democrat in Virginia in Spanberger, and this Democratic socialist in New York. And so on Wednesday morning, Democrats are going to wake up with like a headache in terms of both sides of the party claiming victory, both sides energized. And then we're going to see which way the party goes in 2026, right?
First of all, let me say, let's give credit where credit is due. It's not going to be, at the end of the day, Gavin Newsom who persuaded Californians to change their mind. It'll be Donald Trump. But in terms of I was saying to Elliot before the show, what I anticipated for tomorrow was Democrats were going to win all these races, and that Republicans who don't want to read it as a negative verdict on the president will start saying, well, they elected a socialist. Now he's the face of the Democratic Party. What they're missing, and I think what is a through line between these races, is that the issue of affordability is one that Democrats have seized on, and it's a great vulnerability for the president, and you see it in this polling. So to that degree, I think the Proposition 50 out there in California has tangible impacts for next year in terms of the midterm elections, but in terms of atmospherics, I think that is a message, the affordability message is the one to take away here.
Yeah, well, let's look at what approval ratings have looked like in heading into past midterm elections. Ronald Reagan back in 1981 sat at 49%. You can see I don't have to read them all to tell you that Donald Trump sitting at 37 is pretty significant. Kristen Soltis Anderson, you read these kinds of numbers all the time. If we put up our new CNN polling on Trump's job approval, just 28% of independents say that they approve of what the president has been doing. Now, obviously, his number's a little bit higher among non-college voters, but still just 40%.
Yeah, and look, this poll is significantly more negative than other polls that are out there, which isn't to say that it's not right, but it is to say, like, let's put it in context. If these numbers are true or even partially true, it ought to be a warning sign to the White House, because a lot of those voter groups that you just had up on the screen were critical to Donald Trump's victories, his coalition, the unusual group of people that he put together to remake the Republican Party in a new, more populist direction, where they're upset with institutions, they want things to change. If I'm giving the White House advice, if we get to the end of this off-year election and Democrats have a great night, on the one hand, some of that is just how this works, right? Barack Obama wins in 2008, Republicans are lost in the wilderness, and all of a sudden they win the New Jersey governor's race with Chris Christie in 2009, right? Being the party out of power does sort of give you more momentum in these off-year elections. So it wouldn't surprise me if Democrats don't do pretty well. At the same time, those job approval numbers for Trump are bad enough and have dipped enough where I think this affordability question and this little bit of like, let them eat cake, we're doing a ballroom, we've got members of the administration taking private jets places. Like, I think that that's the kind of stuff that breaks through in a moment when people go, I have to start thinking about Christmas shopping for my kids, that I think the White House needs to pay a lot more attention to that.
If you can't visit a doctor, don't worry. He will save you a dance. And if you don't get an invitation to the next White House shindig, you can always watch the festivities and all the beautiful people on Truth Social.
It's about where we are. The Democratic Party, the Democratic candidates, and President Barack Obama making the 2025 election. Everyone who is for the country remaining a democracy, which looks like those numbers are ticking up by the hour, breathes a sigh of relief when President Obama enters the chat.
Yeah, and boy, nothing's better than sarcastic Obama. You know, he is just the best when he really hits his mark on using his incredible oratorical skills to skewer a character like Donald Trump. I think we have a lot of talent in the Democratic Party. I know everybody is teeth gnashing and worrying about who's going to emerge and do we have a leader. I think one will emerge. I think the process will demand someone who can communicate well and captures the anger and the frustration that so many Democrats are feeling. And frankly, now, a really healthy majority of independents. And that's what I watch in these polls, Nicole. The way you look at politics is influenced by what you went through working in the White House. I ran in a state where I could not win with Democratic voters. I had to have independent voters. I had to peel off some of the Republican voters for me to ever win in a state like Missouri. So independent voters are who decides who's president of the United States. And independent voters are who decides who represents states like Pennsylvania and Ohio and North Carolina and Michigan, all the states that we need to gain control in Congress. And what you're seeing in this polling is remarkable among independent voters. Forget about the Democrats and Republicans for a minute and realize that those people that are sick of both parties, they're sick of Donald Trump right now.
Well, what's interesting, Minnie, is the voters, you can't become president without winning them over either.
You can't.
I mean, so President Obama's, one of many of his political feats was assembling the Obama coalition, which included a lot of independent voters. And President Biden assembled a lot of those same individuals. Donald Trump appealed to them last November in enough numbers to prevail. But the vast majority of them told us they voted for him because of the price of groceries, largely, and cost of living and inflation. Those are some of his lowest poll numbers. And as much as we appreciate the zingers about the ballroom and the rule of law, I think they're really important issues to a whole lot of people. Every single person in this country, except the tech bros, what do you call them? The billionaire, the finance bros, the crypto guys, and the lofty corporations. But everybody else is feeling the damage Trump has done to the economy.
Yeah, and the SNAP cuts going into effect or almost going into effect right now is just sort of heightening the drama.
So, folks, it looks like Trump's already given up. The data is against him, and we've talked about this. he's not campaigning. One thing you can say about Trump is that when he wants to, the man can campaign, right? The man campaigned quite hard in 2020, in 2024. He was out a decent bit. He did a lot of media when he wanted to, right? He went out there. I'm not a defender of Trump, but when he wants to campaign, he can campaign. So it's probably a mixture of a couple things happening right now. One, Donald is getting old and sick and tired and demented. Some have suggested, like Gavin Newsom, that he's suffered strokes. Some have also suggested that his heart issue, which is, you remember how they mentioned the veins in his legs? People talk a leg. It's not a leg issue. That's a heart issue. His heart's not able to pump blood sufficiently to his extremities. Maybe that issue is worse. Two, Donald makes things worse at this point. He's incredibly unpopular again. He had a brief period where people forgot who he was, shockingly. And he wasn't as unpopular. He was still unpopular, but less unpopular. Now he's more unpopular than he was in his first term already. Not even a year in. And he knows that he's kryptonite to any GOP electoral chances. And three, he's hiding because he knows he's lost. And if he's out there campaigning and then they lose, he's going to look even worse. Again, there's a reason why Barack Obama is out there, hasn't been president for nearly 10 years. Trump's president now and he's nowhere. Because Barack Obama, one, I think wants to help his party, but two, he understands, like, there's a chance that he'll look good if the Democrats win, and Trump thinks there's a darn good chance I'll look bad when my party loses.